Welcome, everyone. This is a recording of how to find scientific articles that you can use in research papers, lab reports, things like that, and how to find those research articles using our TCC library database. So as you can see on my screen, there are two objectives for this recording. First, I'm going to show you how to find a scientific research article, like I said, using our library database. Which is basically like a Google search that you can access different articles that you can use in research papers, and then how to actually cite that article in APA format. So I'm going to give an example using the topic of the human microbiome. And for those of you that don't know, the human microbiome is the term for basically all of the microorganisms, whether they're good or bad, that live on your skin or inside of you, in your gut, in your lungs, things like that. And the research question I'm going to investigate by trying to find some articles is how does the diversity of the microbiome relate to gut health? In other words, what's the relationship between how diverse your microbiome is, how many different species there are in different amounts, and how does that relate to your gut health? So using this research question, I'm going to try to find some papers that address this research question. And so to do that, I need to exit out of my presentation here and go to the wonderful internet. And what we're going to do is first go to the TCC library site. So to get there, the easiest way is to go to our TCC homepage. That's tcc.fl.edu. And then if you scroll down on the homepage, we go to resources. Within resources, we're going to scroll down and you can see a link to the library site. And this is a catalog search for like finding books or magazines or DVDs in the library. But if we scroll down here, what we can look at is the databases. And again, a database is a collection of different articles that we have access through TCC. They require subscriptions just like any magazine or newspaper, but these subscriptions are very expensive. And so we don't have access to them as just regular citizens. That's why we have to use the TCC library. I'm also going to show you a little bit later how to use a citation guide to help you cite the sources that we're going to find in our database. So we're at the TCC library site. I'm going to click on A to Z databases. And the easiest way to do this, I think, is to go to the different research guides. And in fact, I did this wrong incorrectly. I'm going to go to the research guides over here. If you are in BSc 2010 or 2011, we have our own research guide, and that's through biology. We're in a biology course. I'm going to click on the 2010 and 2011 guide here. And then what we want is articles and databases. We're going to search a database for articles. So I click on database, and there are a variety of different databases depending on subjects. If you are doing a medical research paper, you might want to use Medline. If you're doing a paper about environment, you might look at Greenfile. I'm going to show you how to use a general search that searches for all kinds of academic papers, and including scientific articles, and that's Academic Search Complete. So again, we're under Articles and Databases here. I'm going to click on Academic Search Complete. Now you might need to log into your TCC account at this point, but again, we're going in through our TCC library because that's the only way we have access to these actual papers. So this is basically a search engine, just like Google or Bing or anything like that, in which you're going to use keywords that relate to the topic that you're researching, and you're going to try to find papers that relate to those terms. So for example, again, if we go back to our research question, we want to know how does the diversity of the microbiome relate to gut health? Well, we probably want to put something in like microbiome diversity and gut health. And you can see I've already searched for that there. That might be a good place to start. And then if you were doing a more thorough search, you could, search for an author or search for these terms in the title or etc. We're just going to leave this as broad as possible to get the most results, and just, we don't need to select a field here. I'm going to click on search. And again, just like doing a Google search, it will come up with the results. Now you see we have 7 results, not too many, but these results are showing the titles of research articles that this data or the database says relates to our search terms here. So for example, this first one, an empirically derived method for measuring human gut microbiome alpha diversity, demonstrating utility in predicting health-related outcomes among a human clinical sample. Looks like it's a related paper. We might want to investigate that one. The gut microbiome and child mental health. Looks like the relationship between those two. That's interesting. Some of the things might not relate so well. So number 5 here, black raspberries and their anthocyanin fractions alter the gut microbiota in rats. Not so related, right? So some things are, some things aren't. Now notice they're sorted by relevance here. That's why I recommend you could sort by date, oldest or newest to oldest, etc. There. Now what I want to show you off the bat is TCC has access to some of these papers or not. If there is a full text link like under this one or a full text finder link, we do have access to that. Number 3 here, it says request this library through item through interlibrary loan. That means we don't directly have access to that in our database, but we could easily ask the library to send us a copy of this paper, and they can do so very quickly. Anything that says, again, full text finder or PDF full text, we would have in our library. All right, so let's say we now have a paper that we would like to check out. Okay, so we want to actually download the paper and see, does it actually answer our research question or relate to our research question? So if we click on the title of the paper here, it will come up with the actual information for this paper itself. Here are the authors of that paper listed there. There's the journal it was published in, the volume, issue, page number, etc. Notice it talks about the keywords here, and that's why it came up, because we searched for microbiome and health. It gives us an abstract, which is a brief summary of that paper. And if we read the abstract, notice it does relate to our research questions. So in here it says, in their study that they did, findings suggest that the diversity of the human gut microbiome is comprised of 2 things, richness and evenness. If we continue to read, it says richness and evenness of the gut microbiome are related to, significantly associated with health-related variables of interest, right? Alcohol use, symptoms of depression, things like that. So looks great, and we know we have access to it. To get to the actual paper itself, I can click on either HTML full text, that's the website, or PDF full text, and I can actually see a PDF of the research article and read through that to gain the information that I want. Okay, so I've just demonstrated how to find a paper in database using keywords, actually download that paper. I could download it and read it if I wanted to. And the last thing I'm going to show you is how to actually cite that paper, and this is an incredibly useful thing for the assignment that you have to do if you're in BSc 2011 lab, and that actually get a citation for this paper and write a 1 or 2 sentence summary. So if you notice on this, again, I'm on this paper title that I just investigated. Over here on the right, it says cite. If I click on cite, now for this assignment, you're going to want to cite in APA format 7th edition. And notice there are different citation formats here listed. I'm going to find APA 7th edition, and there is what you would put on your reference section, right? The citation for that paper. Authors, date published, title of the paper, journal it was published in, and a link, etc. I can very easily copy and paste this directly onto my document. So I'm going to go to an empty slide here. I'm going to copy and paste with the source formatting used, and there is a citation. If I wanted to make a literature cited section, that would be my first citation. Okay, so what we're going to do now is talk about how to cite this in text and create your literature cited section. It's not guaranteed this is 100% accurate, so we do want to check it against the actual standards for APA citation format. How we can do that is go back to our library site. So if we go here back to our TCC library site, and I'm going to go all the way back here to the beginning. Okay, Notice, again, we're on the library site here. I can go to citation guides, and this will show me how to cite an article in APA format, right? We want the APA guide, and we want the 7th edition. So this very top one is a very thorough discussion of how to cite a scientific article in your paper that you're writing. Okay, so if I click on that, it will pull up this PDF. Now notice that it talks about different types of sources and how to cite those. Now we are doing we are looking at a journal, right? That's a scientific journal that we just saw. If we go back here, right, PLOS 1 is a scientific journal. So we want to go to journals, which is on page 8 and 9. If we scroll down here, nope, not quite. There we go. This is what the format should look like on a journal. Now notice we are dealing with a journal article with 2 or more authors, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 authors there. So we're going to go down to journal article from a library database with a DOI, which we do have. There's the DOI right there. And 2 to 20 authors, okay? That's what the format of the citation should look like. And notice it's last name followed by first initials, date published in parentheses, or the year published, excuse me. Here is the title of the research article. The journal should be in italics, and then with the volume number and issue number, page numbers, not in italics, and then DOI. So that's what the citation format should look like. If we go back to that thing that I copied and pasted, I can confirm that the database gave me the right thing, right? Authors with the initials, date published or year published. There's the title of the article, there's the journal, etc. So that matches, and that's a good thing. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to show you is how you would actually cite this in the text of your paper. This would go in your literature cited section, but if it's in the literature cited section, you're going to talk about it in your research article. So let's say I wanted to use this paper in a paper that I was writing. Well, we can go to, actually, let me just give an example of a sentence in which I might cite this paper. So I might say, studies have shown that the diversity of the gut microbiome is significantly related to mental health. For example, depression. All right, I could say mental health characteristics such as depression symptoms. Okay, now I got that information from reading this article. Okay, so I need to give credit to that article. I need to cite it within this sentence. So to do that, let's go back to our citation guide. So if we scroll to the top of the citation guide, notice it shows us how to do in-text citations at the very end of the guide. That's 20 through 24. So I'm going to scroll down to page 20. I'm not doing direct quotation. What I'm doing is a paraphrase, right? I'm paraphrasing the study that I read, right? The results of that study. And so notice it tells me how to do correct paraphrasing and citation, right? There's the sentence. And to cite this, I need to put it in parentheses with the author's name or authors' names and year published. Now notice down here, I'm using, I have multiple people, right? So I'm going to say first author et al. And the year published. Okay, so if I go back to the sentence I just wrote, right, from this paper, I concluded that the diversity of the gut microbiome is significantly related to mental health characteristics. And then I'm going to go ahead and say the first author here, Haggerty et al., since there are more than 2 authors, and then that was published in 2020. Okay. Another way I could write this would be, let me make that a little bit bigger if you're watching there at home. I could also say Haggerty et al. In parentheses, the year published, found that the diversity of the gut microbiome is significantly related to depression symptoms. Okay, so I've given credit to these authors for this finding. Okay, so what we have done today is we have found, I've shown you how to find at least one scientific article that relates to a research question, right? How to cite that article within the text, and then start to create a literature cited section, again, by downloading the citation from the TCC database that we accessed through the library. Okay, so now it's your turn. So in this, the last question on this assignment, right, I researched how does the diversity of the microbiome relate to gut health. What you're going to research, and you're going to find a paper that does this, is find a paper that discusses how the diversity of macroinvertebrates relates to the water quality of an aquatic ecosystem. And again, when you're doing this, I'll remind you, let's go back to our search that I did. I searched for microbiome diversity and gut health. Now, you would need to obviously research something else. And again, your mission is to find an article that talks about how the diversity of macroinvertebrates relates to the water quality of an aquatic ecosystem using those skills that I just showed you. And that is it. If you have any questions, of course, definitely talk to your instructor. There's one more thing I wanted to point out on our library site very quickly. Your instructor is a great resource. If you go to, I'm going to go back to the library site here, and I'm going to go back to research guides, is where we were before. Okay. Maybe. All right, let's go back to the library site here. I'm going to go to research guides. That's what we started doing. I'll notice that there are links to your friendly librarians here. And in fact, if we go to our biology research guide in 2010 and 2011, our science librarian at TCC is Jules Bailey. You can email her with any questions. If you need help finding papers, you can schedule an appointment. And I believe there are ways through the library site to actually, this link over here, Ask a Librarian. If you're in the middle of doing research and need help, those are resources, and of course your instructors are there to help you as well. So I hope you found that useful, and good luck finishing the rest of this assignment.